All right, welcome back to another episode of the Northwest Property Podcast. My name is Tony Dunham. I'm the co-founder and managing director for Mosaic Studio. And we're going to kick off our second episode here with a guy that I just met a few weeks ago. But he's one of these guys that he just has the right energy. He has the right vibe. And I felt like I knew him forever right when I met him. So Aaron Van Cleve, you're here with us today on the podcast. Go ahead and give us just a quick intro about you and your background in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Tony. And likewise, brother. I mean, I think you want to be a pillar in your community. You want to be a trendsetter, and you want to be just a good person, and have influence and whatnot. And you find other people that are like-minded, that have the same desire and energy and impact. And you just want to dive in together already, So it feels like we've been friends for a long time, but ultimately, we've only been friends for a month,
Yeah,
right?
for
If
sure.
that. And you've
Yeah.
already helped out on so many things, and I can't say how much I appreciate it. And you have me on, man. It's a blessing, And it's just acknowledging and noticing those small blessings through people that just walk into your life.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah, and you're like-minded with me in the same regard, where it's like I go out, I network as much as possible because I know that people buy people first.
Yeah.
And when you have FaceTime with people and you're out there in the community mixing it up, speaking your truth, telling people who you are, why you are,
Right.
why you're there, why you're invested in what you're doing, it just is super contagious. And so I met you at the happy hour, which actually there's another one tonight. So Sean Varnig is running a monthly real estate happy hour, and you just had that vibe, and you walked into the room and it was like you had good energy, and I could tell, I'm like, I'm gonna go talk to this guy. And then right off the bat, we hit it off. I saw you at another event, and we've been talking, and now we're in the midst of working on some kind of a partnership where we can work together and better serve the community. Because if you find people that bring value, it's like that's the guy. So really appreciate you coming out here and being on the podcast. So tell me about your journey in real estate. You are, if I got this correct, you're 8 years into the mortgage
8
world.
years in April.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be 8 years in April. I was, it's just so funny how hearing how people got into real estate or mortgage or whatever it is, appraisals, inspectors, builders, all their lifeblood of their story and their DNA is all different. But a lot of times, sometimes, like-minded people come together that had a completely different background and story, but they're at a very similar place.
Yeah, for sure.
So for me, I love coaching. I love teaching. I like having influence in people's lives because I had some really quality mentors. So I was in school to become a teacher and a baseball coach, maybe a golf coach, whatever was available, right?
For sure.
Basketball, who cares? I love to coach, and I love sports. I grew up playing sports. I have 3 brothers.
Are you the middle, youngest?
Middle. I'm the third. So I got 2 older and 1 younger. My youngest brother got all of the talent in the world, and from all 3 of us put into 1 kid, and he is the best athlete I've ever met. He just can pick up anything.
That's awesome.
And just take over. Golf, basketball, anything, man. The guy is just ridiculous. He scored more touchdowns than I could ever dream of. Right.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he literally took like 2 or 3 years off of baseball, came back, I bet if they would have went to the playoffs, he would have gotten all state, but he got all league, and, he wasn't even playing the position he should have been playing either, which is cool. But anyways, so that's kind of my story. My dad coached me growing up. So I had, all sorts of, mentorship from him too. He's one of my best friends. But with that, I was going to school. I was going to Chemeketa Community College. And then I had a really, really bad biology teacher. And I was working really hard on school because I have ADHD, man. I need to focus and get through this. And so I'll look inwardly too, but I was working really hard on that. I was in the class with a valedictorian best friend of mine, and we were on the same projects and whatnot. And this gal calls me up and says, in front of the whole class, "You're going to fail my class. You might as well drop it today." Picked up my stuff, left.
Wow.
Never went back. That's when I was like 20. At that time, I was working at a coffee shop and a golf course, and getting connections and getting into different areas that I should be, but still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And I had this gal, it's actually April McVeigh, who I still am friends with today. she said, you need to get into real estate. And I said, okay. So I take her card and I'm looking into it. I'm looking into purchasing the class, going to Norm Webb. That's a big one
Oh
in
yeah.
Salem,
Okay.
where everyone gets their license. It's got like a 95% pass rate. So I'm looking at that. And then at that time, I am pretty much helping this guy who runs a mortgage branch. And at that time, I knew mortgage was like a payment on a house,
Right.
So I'm helping him move an office. And then he just keeps texting me because he likes my work. He likes that I always show up and I work hard. So, an affluent guy that lives in the hills in West Salem is basically using me to help him whenever he needs, personal assistant, so to speak. And then he texts me one night and he's like, hey, why don't you drive us up, me and some clients, up to a Portland Trailblazers game? And he always paid well. He gives me like $500 and $100 for dinner, and because they're going to be,
and at that
they're
time,
going to be,
that's good
drinking
money.
and whatnot. They want to be safe and not have you. So have a driver. Cool.
Yeah.
You can afford things like that when you're doing really well in the industry. So anyways, so I'm really cool. I've never told this on camera, so this is fun. Anyway, so I'm on that. I get to his house. It's the biggest house, one of the biggest houses I've been in West Salem at the time. And I get there and it's like a brand new, it's not an Escalade, it's brand new GMC, XL, Yukon, whatever it was. I'm like, oh shoot, I've never driven this nice of a car. This is cool. So I jump in and I kid you not, there's like 4 top producers, real estate agents. I'm like, thank you, God. I'm supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Because this is going to be my end. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to know where I'm going to hang my license. This is perfect. And had that happened, do I think I would have been as successful? 100%. Because I actually really do. I like to play real estate agent. I was just on Zillow last night looking at properties, multifamily and whatnot to send to my clients that are pre-approved, on the beach and all over. So having that kind of earnest love for it is just as impactful, because I kind of can play real estate agent because I know what they can afford. I know what's a good investment. I've invested myself, and just being able to have that resource for them with the agent as well. Like, we're both in this as a team to help you. But anyways, so back to the GMC drive up to the Portland Trailblazers. I'm sitting there, I'm listening, and he says, and I'm talking to these agents and just on cloud 9 at the time. And the guy sitting next to me in the passenger seat, the owner of the branch, and he's like, well, have you ever thought about mortgage? And I'm like, no. I don't even know the first thing about a mortgage besides maybe if it's a payment on a house, right? So weeks later, we go on a lunch meeting, maybe a week later, Best Lou Roadhouse, have some nice, prime rib. They're really good. Anyways, and we just start talking. He says, if you work really hard, in 2 years, you could be making 6 figures without a doubt. And I'm like, with no school, you got to get a license.
Right.
But he's like, you have such an advantage. You work hard, but you have such an advantage because the average age of a loan officer right now is like, at that time, is 58. Now it's 55.
Yeah.
So it's getting lower,
right?
Slowly, but still, not everyone wakes up, and graduates high school and is like, I'm going to be a loan officer.
It's not as sexy as some of those other things out there.
And most of their connotations are, I work at a bank or something. No, man, my schedule is a lot like agents and a lot like small business owners. I create it. And I also am indebted to myself to do what I say I'm going to do and to schedule out and all these different things. But okay, so we have that conversation. I go and I work for Fairway Mortgage for 4.5 years. All of the respect and love for those guys. They trained me, they taught me. There's some great friends that I still have to this day. In fact, I just caught up with them a couple weeks ago. But everything that he said came true within 2 years. It might have even been quicker than 2 years. Worked my tail off. And I was really lucky to be partnered with those guys, but also with HomeSmart. We were in their office. So these agents, and they were the fastest climbing real estate company in the Willamette Valley. Now they're the biggest. And to have those agents just walk in and ask you questions and whatnot is invaluable. So I created relationship after relationship that I still have this day. I've gone on vacations with some of those agents, and
they are they're builders, right?
No, HomeSmart Real Estate Company.
Okay,
yeah, HomeSmart Realty. But they partner, they represent probably 20 of the top builders in the
Yeah.
Willamette
Okay.
Valley.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So anyways, so that's how I got my opportunity. There was nights that I would just pour out. I'd be there until midnight sometimes, just wanting to get ahead, just
Yeah.
wanting to, and at that time I wasn't drinking, I wasn't taking advantage of I was 20, 21, 22. All my friends are in college still,
Right. Yeah.
so I'm disconnected from them in a lot of ways. I didn't get that college experience, but I'm getting that trial by fire of I'm dealing with lawyers and doctors and people that are making their biggest investment. And I'm 21, 22 years old.
Right.
And then I'm going to tell you a lot and be vulnerable about a lot on this podcast, but then all of a sudden money can change you, and money can change your work ethic. Money can change so many things. When you're 22 years old and you're getting a $7,000 check every 2 weeks, you start to spend more. You start to be
Yeah.
idiotic. You start to be young. And then
Right.
you want to show off and glitz and
Yeah.
glamour.
You feel like you made it.
And I'll get back to, what our conversation is, but man, there's a reality check that comes, especially as the market changes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so thank you for that. I mean, and I want to dive in a little deeper on that too. But you and I have kind of similar stories in a couple different ways. Because I did the same kind of thing where I didn't really know. For me, I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do, and I almost went into the military. And then, luckily, my grandfather talked me out of it because it wasn't going to be a good fit. But I was, close to signing my final papers to go in the Marines, and then I took a total pivot, ended up going to art school, which was a great opportunity, a great experience for me. But then I got into the sales world. And so I got out of college, I started selling shoes at Nordstrom, and I had never done anything like that before. I was didn't even have a suit, didn't know how to talk to people, did nothing, right?
Right.
And so I just soaked up all this product knowledge and insight from kind of the OGs at that time who were selling shoes at Nordstrom at Washington Square. And then all of a sudden it's like, I'm there for 5 years. I'm getting promotions. I'm starting to, climb up the ladder. And you get to a point where, because you didn't really have this vision and path kind of set out already, you want to prove yourself and hustle hard and make that dream come true. And then when you get to a point where you start making the most money you've ever had, you start to, sit back a little bit and your whole dynamic changes and you kind of like lose sight of what got you there, but then, luckily for both of us, you have the ability to kind of, redirect that path and figure out where the happy medium is, because you can still have the hunger without like the desperation feeling of like trying to prove yourself. And then once you get to that happy medium, then you're like your whole self.
Yeah.
'Cause you still have the hustle and mentality to like grow and like be who you want to be, but the goal kind of changes and evolves of like what that definition is, right?
Constantly.
So that's really cool, man. I definitely I feel a lot of that. Like that's kind of how my story has evolved as well.
And there's so much power in vulnerability.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, I think, in business, the number one thing that you need to have control of and be good at is communication.
Right.
And I can be vulnerable and say, there was times in my career, my communication has been god awful. I mean, just terrible. And I'm disappointed in that. But here's how I'm different. And this is what I've changed. And now I'm going to show you, and whether or not you can trust me right now, I totally understand. But I'm going to do it with a bunch of other people. And that trust, I'm going to validate that trust. And that's going to be an effort every single day that I can count on and that you can count on and that you will see. And it will be evident in every action that I take.
For sure.
And being vulnerable about those mistakes, you burn bridges. I've burnt bridges. I've more than burnt bridges. Like great relationships. Some of the top producers, right? Because what was I doing? I was serving myself for so long. And as soon as that clicks back to I'm serving others, I'm a servant. I'm a steward of something much greater than me. And I take myself out of this, and I really have that servant's heart. All of a sudden, all those bridges can be rekindled.
Yeah.
And those bridges can be built back.
Right.
And having that honesty and transparency and vulnerability in it, has worked time and time again because people make mistakes. We're imperfect.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I think about that a lot because I think I always had the vision. I just didn't have like words to explain it or why, or I just was, full speed ahead. But now that I have two kids, I start thinking about like what my legacy is. And like if I was to leave this earth tomorrow, I want people to know that I'm authentic, I'm genuine, I care about people as a whole. And that just transcends across everything I do, whether I'm
yeah.
working or not working or whatever I'm doing. I am this person wholly, which is really,
Yeah.
really cool to find that in your life because
Oh, that's
I
great.
spent a lot of my life pretending to be somebody over here for a business that I didn't care about and then having to switch gears because
Yeah.
now I can be myself. And once you can blend those two worlds together and be through and through, it's pretty cool. The other thing I wanted to touch on is it sounds like you're similar to me in the way that like I wasn't a super good student. Like I did what I had to do. I was a good athlete. And so I was able to like, you know, utilize that to have the right people to help me get to through the classes so I could play in the football game on Friday.
Yeah.
But when you find something you're passionate about, it's like the numbers and all the academic stuff just flows naturally because you care about it versus like you're looking at you're in math class and you're just looking at this paper like I can't wrap my mind around this. But when you care about something like, I'm sure mortgage is kind of intimidating when you're like, is like you said, is this a banker's
And it can be
industry? Is this a
boring
numbers
too,
guy
right?
type thing?
Like
Yeah.
do I want to sit behind a computer all day and work on loans? Absolutely not. But what is the bigger overarching thing? It's I'm helping people create wealth through real estate.
Yeah.
I'm helping you make your biggest financial decisions. So reframing how I'm thinking about my work was absolutely essential. And I think one of the good things that you just said is, you want and I'm going to talk just a little bit about my faith too, is like I want Jesus to bleed into everything I do. And what that looks like is having that servant's heart, right? So as soon as I start doing that, then because what my boss just told me, branch manager up in Westland, David Delman, just said the other day is, Aaron, you have to understand these things. And I'm constantly getting better too, right? Always just trying to perfect the craft and whatnot. He's like, the reason you are so good at what you do and you're so, and also this is your fault. This is your greatest attribute. And also sometimes your greatest weakness is you're too good at talking. You can talk yourself out of anything and you can control people. And that's great. But how am I using that in a negative context? Okay, let's reframe this. Don't talk too good. Don't have to talk too good. Just do the work.
Yeah.
Just do the work. You have all of these files and whatnot, but how are we going to get those to the finish line quicker? How are we going to move this? How are we going to fine tune our systems? Don't say, okay, I got 10 other things that I got to do. Nope. Let's segment out and really take control of our day instead of letting it take control of us.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's when I started, okay, it's all clicking. I understand. I have to manifest that, okay, I'm going to be better at time. My time management is absolutely paramount.
Right. Yeah, because there's always nuances that in the business world of things that you kind of aren't necessarily prepared for, but it's go time no matter what. And then if you can really harness your schedule and your energy and your passion to really be present when you need to be, it's a full game changer. Yeah.
Freedom. The more meticulous you are about getting to the gym, about doing the things that you care most about.
Yeah. And sometimes the things that aren't that fun that make you better, right?
And in the grand scheme of things, none of it, so many of these little tiny small things don't even matter, like what really, really matters. Let's do that first.
Yeah.
Let's hit the gym first. Let's have our fellowship or our quiet time reading and stuff first. And then let's start our day. Let's get our heads right. Let's make sure that we're putting out the best version of ourselves every day. And if I can do that every day, there's nothing that I can't do. Like I hate to say it, I'm the most confident guy there is. And even if I know that I'm not as good as you or don't have the capabilities or talent and whatnot, I know that I can do it. Dude, so many times on the golf course, I talk myself into thinking that but that's why I play with guys that are much, much better than me. But I'll
Yeah.
talk trash.
Yeah.
Give me a handicap, give me 10 strokes or whatever, and I'll believe that I can beat you every time.
Right.
Whether or not I can or always do absolutely doesn't happen all the time. But that just strives me for better performance later, because
Yeah.
now I can feel that that sense of defeat. And that
Yeah.
defeat can be used as fuel. But yeah,
That's
anyways.
interesting too. There's like a lot of science that tells you like what you and I went and played golf,
Yeah.
and golf's very, I mean, I love golf, right?
Yeah.
But
We both do. I love this.
it's such an extension of like your personality and how you handle pressure and stress and competitiveness and all those things.
Yes.
And it's so fun. Like I love going to play new courses with new people sometimes, or
Yeah.
getting matched up with a random foursome where it's like, you get to like learn about someone. And there's another thing like that that's similar where for kids, if you watch kids play together or anybody play together, if you and I and the other guys were just passing a ball around,
Yeah.
you would start to notice little nuances and little attributes of their personality and things like that. And it's super interesting to me about how humans interact and just all those little tiny things that you pick up on that are intangible. But if you start to look for them, you can see how someone's personality is,
Sports and life are completely synonymous and parallel in so many ways. Like, think about this. If I'm on the first hole, it's a par 4, right? And I slice one into the woods or into the water, whatever it is. Okay. I'm looking at my depending on what the zone is, doesn't matter. But I'm looking at my third shot because you have to take a penalty stroke.
Right.
But on the next shot, if we don't let the last shot really affect us, you could hit that into the hole and you could still get a birdie.
Yep.
Or you can get on, putt in, up and down.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now you have a par. Doesn't matter how you got there. Golf doesn't take pictures.
Right. Yeah.
Golf doesn't take pictures. So all of a sudden, it doesn't matter the journey, what went on. All that matters is that score and what you did.
Yeah.
Or
you slice it into the woods and then
keeping your head space and all of that stuff is absolutely, you have to just always be in a positive and good frame of mind. It's called selective amnesia. Choose to focus on the good things.
It's the most challenging. That's why I really love golf, because I grew up, playing football and I was such an impact player. I just wanted to go hit people and make the play or tackle the guy. And then I try to take that to golf and it's just a struggle. But in that vein, it's like I could slice into the woods and then I could know that it's probably safer for me to just punch out versus try to do something crazy. And that's where my kind of mindset has to go. Right. But there's also a good piece that I read the other day where, Tiger Woods at his prime, his coach, his dad, his, mentors, he had 10 steps to forget about the last shot.
Wow.
So he can think about, because naturally you're going to like, I just had a horrible shot or I even had a good shot, right? But that could screw you up the same way, because then you have confidence that you're not
completely forget about it.
You're not getting back down and taking a practice swing. So you got 10 steps. So I try to do that. Like I've even like tried to trick myself, because I realized I'm such a head case on the golf course. Like when I first started playing, like all the time, I would come home like super depressed. And my wife's like, "You're not good enough to get this upset." And I'm like, okay. So I would just I would like write 10 on my golf glove. I'm trying to like give myself these little things, switch tees out, switch balls out, trying to like give myself a fresh kind of approach. And that's definitely how you have to take that mindset into the business world. Like
you're just going to have a lot of losses. And
so you take every bad experience is just a learning opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not something to like get depressed about and let it bog you down and think about how this person screwed you over or you made a mistake. It's like, that was just a piece of the story. And now we're going to make the story better tomorrow,
absolutely.
So that's awesome, man. So tell me about this. Like, passion is one thing, confidence is one thing. Some of those are natural attributes and some of those are things we learn along the way. But when it comes to hard work and passion, like, who taught you that in your life?
And it kind of goes back to sports, right? And it goes back to mentorship and really quality leaders, coaches, all those different things. And recently, my girlfriend, soon to be fiance, she manifested something inside of me that it's like a flame that can't be put out. She is the most inspiring person that I've ever met. She runs a massive modeling agency based out of LA in Florida. She is managing managers, right, all over the United States that manage like 300 people, VAs. They run Instagram, everything, and they have huge. But I can't really talk about that publicly too much because they're private.
For
But
sure.
what she does is so inspiring and impressive, and it just shows me like, Aaron, your stuff is a fraction compared to what she has to do every day. How do I be more like her? How do I be critical with my time? How do I be more organized? She just came in and just all of her successes and whatnot have just bled into mine. She gets up at 4:45 every day and hits the gym. Now I do, you know, and then after the gym, then it's okay, meal plan, whatever, all these different things, right? She gets ahead. She likes that time to just, okay, because then she gets home, she gets done with work at the end of the day and then dinner and then bed.
Yeah.
There is so much success that can be made when you live a boring life.
Right.
Boring life.
Yeah.
I don't find that super boring. I
Yeah.
find that fascinating. She's
Yeah.
getting ahead. But the biggest thing for me is that I learned from her is being more critical of ourselves and more detailed. So after I get done at the gym, I was just kicking my shoes off for months, kicking my shoes off, relaxing, using that time to just screw off
Yeah.
until 9 a.m. or my first pipeline meeting of the day, every day, 9 a.m. And then I was like, okay, Aaron, what the heck? I just wasted so much time between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. every day. That's 3 hours. I can I can shower, I can do skincare. Like I want to be better, right? I'm eating better. I'm doing all these different things, but be extremely detailed with what you're going to do. I want read every day. Have to. It sets my mind up.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, I want to prospect. And I was way too broad with prospecting and follow up. So now it's text messages, emails, and then like potential leads or potential, buyers, basically. So I have to be more critical about every aspect. And I'm still fine tuning this because then once my day starts, if I'm already doing all those different things, yeah, I have meetings and whatnot that's taking me away from my computer. But for the most part, I should have already touched base with everyone that I needed to before 9 a.m. And that is powerful. Then now I can still have a good turn time because I've already touched base with you.
Right.
So that helps me. That has helped me already so much. And I can't wait to see how that continues to breed success in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think there's a lot to that, right? And, getting yourself in a position where you control your day, you control your energy, you control how you affect your day is so important because you don't want your day to run into the evening and you feel like you just kind of, it was okay, right? You want to be as impactful as possible.
Yeah.
And in that same thought process, I also think there's a huge thing for me where, sometimes you get up, you start grinding, you really are hustling, but everything just seems to go the wrong way, right?
Yep.
And you're just like, I'm going to keep hammering this nail until I can figure this thing out. Now, sometimes in that way, you got to take a step back and go, you know what? I'm going to take a mulligan today. I'm going to cut out the second half of the day to regroup my mindset because I could actually cause more damage by trying to make something work that for whatever reason, the universe is just not in your
head
thing.
Against the wall.
I mean, honestly, it's funny on what is today? Monday, I texted you and I just woke up with fire and I was like, I'm going to get it today. This is going to be the best day. I'm just going to make an impact. Because I have some days where I'm just kind of plugging along and all of a sudden I look at the end of the day, I go, man, I scheduled 4 new clients today. I did this and it was successful. And then like on Monday, I woke up and I thought it was going to be one of those days. And for whatever reason, we just had a bunch of weird stuff happen. And I just said, that's okay too. Sometimes I go to the gym and I'm not in the mood and I sit in the car in the parking lot for a minute, but I'm like, I'm already here. Let's make something of it. And at least every day I'm so close, so closely aligned with my structure and my mindset and the things that I know help me.
Yeah.
And there's things you can't control. So it's just being okay to step away and be like, that's fine too.
And I think it goes back to, like, I guess I'll get a little bit more into my story too.
Yeah.
So I was born diagnosed with, you probably know it, it's in dogs too, a version of it, variant. It's called hip dysplasia.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's called hip Perthes disease. So it's basically lack of blood flow to the hip joints, right? So when I was 23, I had both my hips replaced.
Wow.
Yeah. So not a lot of people know about that. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of cool. It's kind of fun to tell the story. But what that did for me is it created a deep sense of empathy. I can feel for people a lot deeper than I think most, because I had this dramatic, kind of sense of like pain tolerance growing up, where, and this is a beautiful story. The doctor, when I was like 7 to 12, he would always do it. He would take my x-rays, and then he'd take a kid's x-rays that's been in a wheelchair since he was 5 or something like that. And he'd put them up next to each other and he'd say, these are your hips, and this is the kid in the wheelchair's hips. And he says, yours are worse. And you're playing sports and you're
Yeah.
active
You're
and
like,
you're
cool,
running.
I'm 10.
And to really like think about that.
Pretty heavy for a kid.
It's absolutely
Yeah.
crazy. Like, why did God want me to be active, and how was I able to not be and able to be disabled, right? And that's why it kills me. I have some fun stories, but absolutely kills me when people tell me I can't do something. My mom, I love her. She's the best woman ever, an angel, but would often tell me, you can't play this sport. You can't run around at the playground. There's no way you can climb that mountain. And not out of like disabling me that I couldn't do it, but she just didn't want me to because she knew it would affect my hips. That's out of love. But I'm like,
yeah,
I absolutely can.
yeah.
I climbed a bunch of mountains before I got my hips done. And then eventually I was just thinking, okay, quality of life. My back was starting to get tight. The rest of my body was breaking down essentially. And I was like, you know what? Let's bilateral, get them both done. So I had a very rare in both hips, but I was still able to play sports at a high level, baseball mostly, but I was stiff and I was a step slower, but I could still pitch and hit and do all the things, but had quick hand-eye coordination. But that has a dramatic effect on my life because I had to sit on the sidelines a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I had to watch my brothers play. I had to dream, to be on that football field and catching touchdowns. Because as a leader, I feel like I could have been the quarterback that could have led that team better, or could have had more impact. And you dream for those types of moments, and and that camaraderie and that connection and that like deep sense of meaning.
Yeah,
when you're rallying the troops and you want to be that Alexander.
Yeah.
That
you want to lead him into battle
by example,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's that fire that's inside you as a competitor. You always want to do that. And I wasn't able to in multiple sports. So that's why I love baseball, and now I love golf because I can control that. But anyways, that kind of is a little bit more backstory on me too.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. And that tells me a lot about, you had the option to, take the label they gave you or whatever, or take the destiny that someone else dictated for you, or change the whole game and break through the mold of what's possible.
Right.
And those things are hard because those are like those innate things that you don't know if they're, you had a circumstance dealt to you and you rose to the occasion. But not everybody has that ability, so that's just like so cool to hear that story.
And it's wild when someone takes something that's, they would say is a disadvantage and uses it as an advantage. And that's exactly how I look at, like, the doctors I kind of knew I had ADHD my whole life, right? Kind of knew. So it's about, I'm 21, 22, and I'm noticing myself at work. I would have to get up when I just started getting into the office world. I would have to get up from my desk like once every 30 minutes and get water, food, talk,
something, interact with somebody.
I'm a squirrel.
Right. Same.
It was so hard for me to sit in an office for 8 hours a day. Absolutely impossible. And I was the worst loan officer assistant because my attention to detail just was not that high. And that's changed a lot because of, there's ways to improve, right? But now that's my superpower. I'm like the Energizer Bunny, but I'm way more focused and detail oriented now. And I still have a long way to go, don't get me wrong. But now it's my superpower. I can
Yeah.
do way more stuff if my mind is put together
Yeah.
and
It's in the zone
organized,
that needs to be. Yeah.
right? So listen, I was just always told growing up, like, you don't want to be on meds or medication or
Right.
whatever that is. But
Yeah.
if we reframe our brain of like, this is helping me, this is an advantage now,
Yeah.
and I'm going to use it, and
For
leverage it.
sure.
So,
That's awesome, man.
yeah. So, okay, tell me a little bit about your story. And I know that, this is more focused on me, but why are you where you are now? And kind of how did you get there?
Yeah. So
And that's
I,
broad, but
yeah. So when I think about, like, I think about this a lot because I'm so proud of where I am right now.
mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm 37. So it's like, it took me this long in my life to get to a point where I can walk around and feel authentically me. And it's just like, I mean, thinking about it just makes me want to like cry sometimes. Cause I'm like, I've been looking for this purpose my whole life, and finding this moment is just, I just want to like be present for it all the time. And I'm so passionate. But,
right.
so for me, one of my kind of superpowers, I think, is that I have a pretty high risk tolerance. I'm not risk adverse at all. And so that's, again, like you said, it's your best and your worst attribute, where that could be awesome, but it's taken me a long time to like not, make the wrong action moves.
Yeah, I'm a dreamer and a visionary, so
Yeah.
that can be a thorn in my side at times, for sure. Especially my girlfriend would say that.
And I think this is important for people to know too. So like, my mom had me when she was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I've never met my real dad, and that puts kind of a label on you. That puts kind of, that is, my whole life growing up, everybody would say, oh, does that bother you? Does that bother you, or whatever? And I'd be like, no, I'm fine. I'm totally cool, whatever.
Right.
And it took me like 20 something years to finally say, like, actually, that does bother me, because my entire life I was trying to prove that I was good enough for someone that doesn't exist. Like my dad is alive. He's well. I've never met him. But I don't want to meet him because he doesn't align with who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I would never do that to somebody. I couldn't live with myself knowing that
drives you to be a better dad.
Right. Totally. But my whole life I was trying to fit in, trying to figure out who I was, trying to be good enough for someone that doesn't exist. That's how I kind of frame it in my mind.
Man,
and so that drove me to be super competitive, super, analytical about everything I was doing. I was kind of mimicking people out there because I didn't have like a father figure really until, luckily I had an amazing grandfather that helped raise me and taught me all the hard work and dedication and things that I need to do in my life to like be successful. But that is kind of the earliest thing I can think about, the foundation of like why I am the way I am. Because in my mind, I'm like, man, I'm a psycho sometimes. I'm just, I want to go out there and just crush everything. And I want to prove, so I've learned a lot about, I don't have to prove myself that way anymore. I prove myself based on my own definition of like what that looks like in success.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you like the quick rundown. So and I talked about this a little bit on the previous podcast, so I'll just kind of make it, streamlined. But went to high school, didn't know what I was going to do. Ended up going to art school for graphic design.
Yeah.
Got out. The job placement for that career at that time had evolved because technology, so it was a rough go.
Right.
Ended up getting into sales. I did 10 years in retail sales and management, and then because I'm not afraid of risk, I had a connection, and my buddy said, hey, come work for this leadership development company. And so I went to a company called Evanta, which is now owned by Gartner, which is a global powerhouse in the world. And I used to run cybersecurity events. And so I would build conferences. I would look at, so I used to work in out of Portland, but my area was Cincinnati. And so I would look at the Fortune 500 companies, figure out a way to get in touch with the cybersecurity leaders. I would build like a leadership council that I would interview and, find out what their pain points are and areas of focus. And then we would build these conferences where they could come together and share best practices and talk about threats and ways to, mediate and mitigate those threats.
Wow.
And then I did that for another about 10 years in different companies, different capacities. So
Yeah.
I started running the events originally, and then I got into another company a little ways down the road that I was a global sales director. And so I would sell the sponsorships to the conferences. So I know a lot about, talking to people, running events, project management, sales, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time too, I also branched off and did a startup company that was in healthcare doing the same thing. And so I learned a lot about healthcare leadership and stuff like that.
Very cool.
And then last year, I have a 3-year-old, my daughter Basil, and then we had Rory on the way. So my wife was 7 months pregnant, and my father-in-law, who I was really close with and used to golf with and fish with, and just an awesome guy. He was such a good friend to me and mentor and amazing father-in-law. We were with him on January 7th. And we went out to dinner for my friend's birthday, and we were having a great time, and he was in great health and good spirits. And then on Monday, I get a call from his best friend, and I'm just at the car dealership getting my oil changed, random Monday. And I talk to his friends sometimes, but not that often. So I was kind of like, why is he calling me, right? So I pick up the phone, and he says, Mike passed away today. And it was the hardest moment in my life, because I was like, what do you mean? Like, it was one of those weird things, and you kind of see it on movies or whatever, but it happened to me where I was like, are you joking? Like, it's not funny what's going on, And so my whole world changed in an instant. And I had to go tell my wife, who collapsed when she was 7 months pregnant. I had to go tell her mom. And then everything was kind of a blur for a couple months. And so in that time, I started really thinking about my life and like what it means, and I was super stressed out about my job because, for me, I feel like the further you get away from the things that you're passionate about, the more you have to pretend, the more stressed out you get. Because you're playing this game with yourself every day, doing something you might be good at, but you're just lying to your life and the people around you, right? Because you're not your full self, you're not your whole self. And so I started thinking, like, from that day on, I'm getting out of this business, I'm doing something different. And I started reevaluating my life, almost like I was outside of my body looking at myself and trying to coach myself on, like, what would I tell this person to do?
Wow.
And so I looked at all that and I said, what are you passionate about? And when it comes to business, I was always the why guy. Like, I can crush it for you and sell millions of dollars of stuff, but I can't do it until I know why. Like, why are we selling this? Why are we running this project? Da, da, da. So I started thinking about, okay, so that tells me that I am a better leader than I am a follower. So I want to own my own business, right?
Yeah.
I love to do creative stuff. I went to art school. I used to do a lot of, cool, like travel photography and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's great. So that's another component. Be a business owner, do something creative. What's the other thing? I love to remodel and design homes. And I almost got into real estate a couple of times. I've always been super interested in it, but I didn't know where I fit.
Right.
And I'm thinking, do I want to be a realtor? What do I want to do? So after some kind of real deep searching and my, soul searching and thinking through my life, I told my wife, I go, this is crazy, but I want to start a real estate media company. And she's like, all right, well, give me a minute. Let's talk about this and whatever. So I started taking courses online, grinding to learn everything, bought some new camera equipment, started taking photos, just playing around with it. And then in basically February last year, I launched my own business. So 8 months into that, I realized that, looking at it from a business perspective, I have a lot of abilities that are unique in this space because I've done what I've done in the past. But I want to make this thing bigger and better and greater than anything anybody's seen in this area. And so because I have that drive and the authenticity and the confidence and being myself, I found 2 badass guys that we started this new company together, and I'm going to the freaking moon, man. And it's so cool for me because I can look at all this. It's been a short time in this space, but we've already been super successful because of what I see as the value to the community and helping other people out and doing it through something that I care about so much. And I love it, man. It's been so fulfilling, and it's so cool. I talked to my wife last night, and she goes, I know this is, we're still on the way up and it's still kind of a struggle and some bumpy roads, but I love the new Tony. I love looking at you and
Wow,
being the
what a
person
compliment.
that I know you've always been. And it's not like I was a bad person before. I just wasn't full. I wasn't me. I wasn't like
It's so
through and through.
it's so
So
funny because I just got a note from my girlfriend yesterday. Well, yesterday it was in. She put it in one of my pockets, and I open it, and it's basically I'm proud of you in a in a synopsis of it and what you're doing and your hard work and whatnot. And in my business, so many things. Even if you have great momentum, if you're not closing deals, and sometimes you aren't. But she said, "I'm proud of you, even in the midst of maybe it's slower right now. Luckily, it's starting to really pick up, but that's 30, 60 days from now that you see what the work you put in, right?
yeah,
So, but just to hear that, those affirmations of I love the new Tony or I'm proud of you, that matters.
yeah.
That's what fuels our fire and
Well,
keeps
it's
us
it's
going.
contagious, man. Like
Yeah.
I get to walk around and be like who I
Hmm.
am, and
Yeah.
my clients see that because people buy people first. And if I can walk
Mm.
out there in the world and be a person with a service and a value to you, then we all win, man.
Well, every business needs better marketing and better media.
Yeah.
Every single
And I'm here to
business.
build bridges, and I can,
Yeah. It needs to tell their story, like
yeah,
you said.
and uncover what you really want and have the right
Hmm.
questions to ask. And that is taking my business sense and business background to a place that is
Yeah.
full of creatives. And so, no offense, creatives, but I'm one of them too. But in this business, there's just a little bit of a gap between the business side and the creative side.
Oh, I
And
completely
so
agree.
I'm a bridge builder, man, for sure.
I feel very similar. I feel very similar. And I think one of the biggest things that we also have, that everyone has, that every business owner has, is what? An ego.
Yeah.
And the greatest way to stroke ego is to make you look good.
Right.
And that can be done through camera, through any type of media marketing campaigns.
Yeah.
And if you want your ego to be stroked, we can show you off. And that is something to sell. Is, you know what? We're going to make you look better than anyone else. And we
Yeah.
believe in that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where you hit the vulnerable spot of like audit. Let's look at your social media and let's show you some pain points
Yeah.
and let's show you how you can improve on it to get more market share, to close more deals. 50% of my business right now is probably from media,
Yeah.
maybe more. I don't know.
Yeah.
The connections that you make, the outreach that you can do, everything. And I'm not trying to become an influencer. I'm just trying to have wild success with the people that I already can influence, that
Yeah.
are already my
And
followers.
showcase yourself because it's
Yeah.
so
Be
hard to
viral to your
get.
community.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
hard to get out there, like, cold calls, emails, whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
sure, as part of your
And
thing.
provide value. Like it's all about
100%.
providing value. I could call every single agent ever and say, hey, send me leads, send me leads, send me leads.
Yeah.
It's just the moment that you start providing them value and saying, hey, I can help you close an extra 2 deals a year.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that? Okay, let me help you.
Yeah.
And then when you start providing value in that sense, or hey, here's a couple loans that you can start to think about when you're talking with clients. Let's just keep that, at the top of your mind.
Yeah.
And once you start doing that with your partners, all of a sudden it starts to flow
Yeah.
because you're providing them value. You're hitting them different than any other lender would. Lenders are me, 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 and I don't get any leads. I
Right.
can't send you anything,
Yeah.
but they need like 6 agents to send them stuff to make the same amount of money as an agent,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
So,
I mean, the other thing too that I talked about this last time, I'll say this forever and ever. When I started my business, I went out to anybody I knew. I only knew, maybe 5 people, let's say, in real estate through family, friends of friends, whatever. And I said, hey, can we just grab coffee? And I sat down and I said, hey, this is my story, this is my background. I'm starting this new business, but I want to know from you, what have you seen be successful in this business for the partners that you work with in media?
I love that.
And what have you seen be a problem that hinders the relationship? So I can take all that data and build my business around. So I start 10 times quicker with the right value versus trying to learn by being out on my own little island and thinking I'm,
Yeah.
people are going to be weird or
Yeah.
whatever.
Find the people with influence and listen.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's super cool too for me because I like to network with people and, I don't need to go network with media guys. That's cool too. But
Right.
being around people like you on the mortgage side, being around realtors, listening, like that class you had last week, I picked up so much knowledge.
Yeah.
And I can go use that and have a conversation with an agent and help connect the dots for you guys and make a new community where I can be the catalyst for the community. That's like
Right.
the value.
And that wasn't send me something, that the essence of what we're just talking about, provide value.
Yeah.
And any event that you're going to host or we can host in the future for Mosaic is, how can we provide you more value
Yep.
and make your business more streamlined? One of the one of the sticks that I was having when I was looking into getting into the media sector was, we want to be all encompassing, and we want to have roots and be able to do media management and websites and CRMs and the best video, the best cinematic experience we can provide.
Right. Yeah.
So we kind of came up with a stick that was like, you should probably fire your marketing company. And
Yeah.
that's, sorry, we should partner with them too.
Right.
But we want to have, you want to have the impact that can completely change their systems, streamline everything, and increase their visibility and influence. That is the essence of what Mosaic does. How can you monetize something special that they already have?
Yeah.
And get it to the masses and show it off in an extremely beautiful way, especially the luxury homes.
Yeah, for sure.
Create landing pages with your videos.
Yep.
Do more. Be critical about every single last thing that you do.
All right. We are back for the second half of the podcast. I know the first half was very, inspirational about life and stuff. And I want to make sure that for our listeners and followers, we talk about some business stuff as well and highlight some of the things you're working on. So one question I always like to ask, after 8 years in this business, what inspires you still? What keeps you up at night? What keeps you kind of like hungry for this business, and what, inspires you to keep doing it?
I love that question. It's multifaceted, but I absolutely love it. I think I completely missed for so many years, just until probably the last year and a half, 2 years. I started thinking about, these people aren't just buying a home. They're investing in real estate. They're investing in a home and investing in themselves too, because they're getting equity, they're paying down, and their home is appreciating. In any market, small or big appreciation. We've seen massive amounts of appreciation over just the last handful of years. Since 2018 and 17, 16, 17, since I've been in it, it's just been crazy. It's like a fire hose, right? So we've seen equity hit all-time highs ever in the United States. We have the largest amount of equity that we have ever had. So what does that mean for you who's a homeowner? What does that mean for someone who's not a homeowner? And what does that mean in my business? And I think diving into this is absolutely instrumental for people to create generational wealth through real estate. Let's take my brother, for example. He bought a house in 2016. I think he was 16, 150,000, right? He ends up selling his house 2020 to another one of my friends. They still own the house to this day, 287,000. That is $120,000 in equity that he got in cash. Well, he had to pay the real estate agent, but luckily it was my little brother was in the industry and helped them. And now he has this lump sum of money. Well, he paid off his car, and then he started a business with my dad, electrical business. So they do all the access points and all those different things. So he could take that risk because of that one good purchase.
Right.
Now let's dive deeper into this and, tell stories so that people can really relate to it. For instance, buy a house, right? 300,000, right? You have all of this equity, same exact sense of Jared, my brother. Well, now you've made your best investment. Your best investment has been real estate. But then you just keep going through the circle of life, so to speak, and paying down your house. But your best investment was real estate. Why have you not done another one? Why are you not looking at ways to leverage your equity, small or big? It used to be way more money to purchase a second home, to purchase an investment home.
Yeah.
So it's getting creative in this strategy. And one of the most Effective Ways is just starting to hit the market. Back in November, being able to purchase multifamily owner occupant, you can put 5% down up to 4 units. That used to be 15 to 25%
Yeah.
down. That is, you can't touch that, right? You're not going to pull out 200,000 and take that risk. And oh my goodness, because that also costs every month, right? You got to pay on your, get either a cash out refinance or a home equity line of credit to access that cash. But if it's on $1 million property and your brother doesn't own a home and you can partner with him, and now all of a sudden you own 4 units for $50,000 down on $1 million property that 3 other people are paying. If it's a fourplex, 3 other people are paying off your mortgage. And then you do that again in a year, and then again in a year. Now you own 12 units
Yeah.
that are all being paid off by other people.
Right.
$3 million of real estate that's now going to be paid off in 30 years. And now, after you've done that, now you have enough equity that you don't have to put 5% down and you can go out and buy it individually as an investment.
Right.
Or you can take some of that and pour into a business, or you can invest it in other ways. But reframing our mindset on we need to just buy one home and pay that. If you want to be an investor and you want to look for easy ways, you have to start the conversation of what does this look like? How do I do more? How do I not just, yeah, I get it. We all, I think it's good for people to work every day, but what is your plan to become that millionaire? We all want to become millionaires. We all want to have generational wealth. We all want to get there. It's a no, everyone does, right?
Well, and yeah, I mean, retirement's not guaranteed anymore. It's not the same way it used to be. It's, there's so
And
many changes in the world.
you just have to educate yourself, and you have to be surrounded by the right people that are going to help you get there. And that is what has reinvigorated my passion in what I do, is I'm thinking about every single client in a different lens than I used to. I
Yeah.
used to be self-serving and just, oh yeah, buy this house, cool, yeah, perfect. Here's a pre-approval letter, yeah, awesome, great client. I'll touch base with you later if you want to refinance.
Right.
Now it's okay. Well, let's look at your whole story and let's see what might be best for your situation. If you're a young couple, all day long, 5% down, build new construction multifamily, do it, or find multifamily that's available. I was just looking last night. There's 50, 60 deals that I just started forwarding to some of my clients that are young that want to jump in. Don't just buy a single family house. That only can go so far, and leverage other people paying off your mortgage.
Right.
That is undefeated. That's bulletproof to me. And that can change a family's life.
Mm.
We've seen families change because of the equity and the appreciation. It's not always going to be like that. But what is always going to be is everyone is going to need to have housing. We're in a housing crisis still. So partnering with people and showing them how this can work is the most important thing for me now. And telling them, once this product came out, so Man Made is what it's called. It's our in-house construction product. We've done 5% down or 0% down. Think about this. If you're a veteran and you can buy a home with no money down, great, you can buy a home, but you can also buy up to 4 units with no money down. That is crazy, groundbreaking. A guy that served our country can literally, with no money down, invest in an investment property, live in it for a year, go do it again. Now he's created dang near a whole business based off the fact that he served our country and he deserves that 0% down loan with no mortgage insurance. And now he can do that over and over and over again. You can use the VA loan as many times as you want. Refinance it out, use it again.
Yep.
And you can even use it multiple times in certain, case scenarios. And I could talk about that. But bang, that is freaking groundbreaking. Let's go. I'll call. And that's why I've already started talking to bases and wanting to get in and speak with them about how this can be leveraged and used and should be used. The VA loan is the best loan in the business, and it should be. And it should be taken advantage of because they put their life on the line for this country. And 0% down, duplex, threeplex, fourplex. Let's go. Let's do this, bro. And these guys are hard workers. They can do some of the upkeep, if they find a duplex, whatever type of multifamily they find, do it, man. You have the connections. You should do
For
it.
sure.
Anyways, yeah, I could go on all day about
So
that.
so I mean, there's a million different avenues we could talk about. I think that there's one that's really important for me that I want you to kind of speak to someone that, let's say someone took the first step, they bought their first home, they've got a single family home, they've got some equity, and they're looking at things like, okay, well, what do I do to take the next step? I think it's really beneficial to talk to people about, just a kind of a quick overview about how HELOCs work and how they're beneficial, because I
Yeah.
don't have one currently, but I did have one at my previous home, and it was such a benefit because from my point of view, life happens, things get crazy, you end up having some credit card debt at 18%, let's say.
Hmm.
Whereas if, for me, I took out a HELOC, and you'll have to keep me honest on like the time frames, because I know there's like a borrow period and a repayment period, but I'm looking at that as like, at that time it was like 2.9% repayment after the initial period, and I
Yep.
can use that to pay off my 18%, so I'm saving a big chunk of money there. And
Yes.
then it's not a thing where you're like, I mean, of course, you need to pay it off just like anything else. But
Right.
when I sold the home, I had a little bit still on there, and that just comes off the top when I sold the home. So it's a
Yes.
great way to leverage what you already have in front of you. And when you're a new person to this industry and not understanding all those concepts, break us down, like talk to that person and say, like, this is the benefit. You could use it XYZ way.
Yeah. And for real estate agents alike, having more education for your clients is essential. So, HELOCs, home equity line of credit, is what the actual term is. And how it works, instead of, you can do what's called a cash out refinance, and I'll jump into that here in a second. But how a HELOC, home equity line of credit, works is, let's say you own a home that's worth $800,000. You owe 400. Well, you can take up to 90% of that value and be given that in a flexible, just hypothetical, like you can have a $200,000 line of credit, like a credit card, but it's on your home. It's a second. You don't have to take from it. It's good to just have it open. Don't use it, but have it open,
Right.
because who knows if you got a dog that needs a surgery,
Yep.
if your
Medical bills.
medical
Yeah.
bills, or if your wife loses her job or you lose your job. It's essential to have that line available. Or you want to invest in a business, or you want to pull from that. Like I said, 5% down on $1 million property, you can put $50,000 down if you have 50, if you have so much equity that you can leverage that
Yeah.
and turn that into more equity. So HELOCs are absolutely great. And don't get me wrong, don't go out and buy and spend and get a new golf
Right. Yeah.
membership.
It's not for that, but
It's not supposed to be a credit card. And I think that some people limit it, or you can use it to pay off debt, like you said.
yeah.
That's huge. Same thing with a cash out refinance. In some certain case scenarios, it makes sense for people to pay off their student loans, to pay off their car, and it's going to save them a dramatic amount of money
Right.
every single
Yeah.
month if you house all of that into your mortgage payment.
Yep.
Whether or not you go from a 3 or 4% to a 6% right now, or 6.5, so whatever it is, you can still be saving 1,000. I've seen people save thousands of dollars in interest just by, oh, let's pay all this off with my equity.
Right. And I am by no means in the financial space, so take this for what it's worth, but I think that, society has these norms and these phrases and this knowledge that they pass down from generations that tells
Yeah.
you certain things, but there's people out there that, if you have credit card debt, you should actually be paying that off before like getting a savings account, because you're
Yeah.
just saving money and paying, and you're going to get to a point where you can't outrun that, right? So home equity line of credit is a new tool. It's not new, but it's
Yeah.
another tool in your arsenal to,
People don't know about.
yeah, there's not enough public knowledge around it. I wish they taught us this stuff in high school. I'd be a lot further ahead,
And one more thing, just like, it's just a case scenario that just came by me last night. the guy is he's a CEO of a chamber of commerce, and I think he'd be fine if I said his name. But anyway, so he comes up, and you probably know who he is. But anyway, so he comes down and sits down while I'm at a meeting during happy hour yesterday, meeting with these awesome new gals that are starting their own brokerage. He sits down and he's like, "Okay, so would you guys just humor me and tell me what I need to do with this?" He owns a house, owes like, and I won't say names just because, but owes about $80,000. His house is worth about anywhere from 300 to 400,000, right? He wants to buy a house on the river, but he had the connotation, the preconceived notion that he couldn't rent that house out, that he'd have to sell that. He wants to keep the house, that he'd have to sell that house before he could buy the next one. No, you can use the income that you will be getting in rent on that house. You can take equity out, or if you're, he has other accounts and whatnot, put 5% down on the next property and do whatever you want with that and buy your house on the river. And you're going to be making a lot of money off your rental too.
Right.
So now you can absolutely do that. But he had the connotation, the preconceived notion that you had to put 20% down on the next,
yeah, because that's age old knowledge.
That's the education.
Right.
We need to the mortgage industry has to be better at providing a good vessel of education.
Well, and that's where it comes to play where, this stuff's intimidating. There's a lot to understand as a person that's not in that direct business, and where you kind of excel. And what I've seen from you is you're super trustworthy, you're approachable, you're a great partner in, people's businesses and in their lives. And so if you can establish that and break down those barriers to be the trustworthy source, you're helping,
is what they call it.
Yeah. So you're helping guide them through a process that's really intimidating. Because if I just go online and Google HELOCs, I'm going to sit there and go, all right, I'm going to put this away till later. And then I'm going to look at it again and be like, I don't know, like this is still a lot to look at. But if I have someone that can break it down and help me conceptualize it in terms that I understand, and I trust, it's like if I find like my realtor is amazing, and I was never stressed out through the whole process because I knew she had my back. She knows what my interests are.
Anything to make you feel comfortable.
And I was just like, let's go. Like, here's all my stuff. Here's everything,
Right.
So that is super beneficial. And I think one of your secret powers is being able to build those bridges, have that trust, and be able to guide someone through the process. And they know you're not going to screw them over with some hidden fees or some weird stuff that just benefits you. So
it just stems from being, a perfectionist in your craft and an open line of communication.
For sure.
And education too.
Yeah.
That matters with everyone, and continually giving your past clients education. It's a relationship for life. I want to be your lender for life.
For sure. Yeah. Because that goes tenfold.
Keep that communication open with them.
Right. Okay. So in that vein, what are some new things that you've seen hit the market? I know you talked about the VA stuff, but what are some things that you're super passionate about right now in your business that you're seeing like this is a huge opportunity for people?
Multiple. Well, the main one, so Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is basically who deems what you can put down on what product and so on and so forth.
Good old Fannie and Freddie.
Yeah. So Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are just like the gods of what you can do with purchasing real estate. So they came out with the 5% down on 2 to 4 units, multifamily, which I think is great, owner occupant. But the big issue a lot of the times is inventory is hard on those because you have investors in the game.
Right.
You have so many different things. So this is the most exciting product I've ever been a part of. And this honestly reinvigorated a lot more passion in this investment sector. We can build new construction, 5% down, land and construction cost, all in one, in our man-made construction product. Owner occupant, 2 to 4 units. Now, caveats. You're going to ask, well, it sounds too good to be true. Yeah, you have to have 6 months of reserves. You can use that through retirement, whatever type way you need it. I mean, get a gift from grandpa or grandma to put in your bank account to season for 2 months and host that there until you get done. And okay, that could be illegal. I'm not. That's disclaimer off the cuff. But be creative with it,
right?
And utilize brother to live in it. To be your owner occupant and partner. So much multifamily is bought with partners, with collaboration,
with a multifamily
resource,
right? Yeah,
every single deal he said he's ever done has been with people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be independently done.
Right. You don't have to take all that risk on
So
yourself.
use the people that don't own property, invite them into this partnership with you and do it more than once, and
Yeah.
leverage that equity, leverage what you've already earned and
Right.
got
Right in front of you. Yeah.
right in front of you. And then the other big one is, so everyone always talks about, how no down payment programs come and go, or grants come and go, and some are good, some are bad, some are better than the others. Well, we last spring created our own Manny 100, which is a down payment assistance program. And like, I even helped a guy buy a duplex with that. I didn't know that you could buy multifamily with a down payment assistance
Man, that's
program.
so cool.
And the fact that you can do that is crazy.
Yeah.
First off, the bank is taking risk on you with no money down to be able to purchase a multifamily, but also, yeah, you can buy just any single family residence in your area. It is an FHA loan. I want to say that we might be able to do it conventionally too. I've only done FHA once normally, but it's just a general. It's so simple because it's like I'm just pre-approving someone as if they have 3.5% down
Right.
FHA.
Yeah.
I can stand by the pre-approval letter after I run, what they call it's basically our automated system that spits out an approval, DU findings.
Mm-hmm.
So after I run your file and application and I give you the good to go, I can stand by that. Now that's the first no down payment I've ever had that actually stands by these approval findings, and I can help person again and again and again. Why they have no money down doesn't matter. As long as their credit is adequate, 620, then we can do it. That's nuts. No down payment. I'm in a house and I'm already now creating equity and appreciation for myself in the future.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then do you have any partners that you work with? Let's say someone's super interested in this, but they just need a little bit of help with like getting their credit up to the standard, right? Because that's another opportunity for somebody.
Our team does all the credit help. We could pull your credit, or you can, there's awesome ways. You can go onto Experian.com, pull a $28.
And you can make a big impact pretty quickly.
And I can tell you exactly what you need to do to get your credit here.
Yeah.
And how long it's going to take.
That's cool. So there's no barriers out there. I mean, for people listening to this, it's like, some of this might still seem foreign, but you can hear what the outcome could be for you and your family and your life, and see this generational change that you can do by the resources that are already available for you. So that's awesome.
Here's a cool story too. You never know. Someone had poor credit, had like $7,000 of stuff to pay off, but they had good income. In 3 months, 3 months, they call me back up. Hey, Aaron, we paid off everything. We did everything you said. And they used the Manny 100 program and they got in a house 4 months later. Bang. They now own a house. They now own property. They just listened and did it. That was the fastest I've had someone with that big of an amount to pay off and get right. And they called me up and did it. So it's real. You can't. And trust me, I get credit. Credit sucks. And sometimes it's wrong and it doesn't feel right.
And you have to do it. You have to play the game to get where you want.
You have to manipulate it to pay less.
Right.
You have to have good credit so you can have better interest and all of these other things and have access to, flexible spending credit cards for business or for personal, whatever. And the higher your eligibility is on those credit, always add those. Just don't spend, but increase your credit limits, because that means that your utilization on those cards is less the higher that goes. So that's also affecting. You want to be 30% utilization on your cards or less for your credit to improve every month.
And you get so many benefits too. Like, so another plug for another podcast is called All the Hacks that I listen to. And that guy's a genius. Like, he was a financial advisor that now has his own company. And he tells, like, I love traveling. Mm-hmm. And he tells you all the hacks on, this card gets you this many places for this amount. You can swap points. There's so much more value to having a credit card. But as a young person out there, getting their first credit cards, it's a slippery slope, because all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'll just put that on the card. I was that guy. Oh, yeah, I was that guy, and
I used it to bet on myself in business and it paid off.
Yeah.
Right. But I've been that guy and not benefited because I was selfish with how I was spending too.
Yeah. But now I'm that guy in the way that I love to like utilize the points, you can use it for cash back to pay down your card. You can use it for points to fly wherever you want to go.
Access.
There's companion
Any
miles.
next.
I mean, it's just, I'm all about that. And I love that stuff. So that's super fascinating to me. And it sounds like there's a lot of things like that in the mortgage industry where it's like, there's all these extra benefits you can get. You can plug and play this and play real life Monopoly if you want. You can do whatever you want to grow, create a second source of income, and have all these different benefits.
Yeah.
So
Strategize, man.
yeah. So anybody out there, if you have any questions, call Aaron. He's your guy.
Thank you.
He is the source. He understands it through and through, and there's a lot of benefits for you out there.
The source, that'd be a good name for a podcast. I'm sure it already is, but that's
Know.
good.
I know. I have a tough time with that. It's like I always have these ideas. Even like with my first business, I knew everything about it, but I didn't know what to call it. So I started the business with one name, had to change it later on when I could like get my mind wrapped around like what it was.
You did but yeah, Mosaic though, bro. That's beautiful.
Yeah, well, and yeah, I thought Alex and I went through all these different name ideas, and I was like, well, there's three of us. We bring different, aspects and expertise and experience, and so it's kind of a mosaic of a final product that we can give to.
Great word.
I love that stuff. So
great word.
Yeah, I think that's always interesting. Like I always think of the end result first. And then I go, okay, well, how do we get this started? And then I got to like kind of piece it together in the middle. So I'm trying to put myself through a good process with how I roll things out.
That's what they talk about business development, and business, starting a business and whatnot. The first person you hire isn't, the assistant and whatnot. It's the CEO.
Yeah.
So you start with the head because they're gonna have their strategies and hire and implement everything. Right?
Yeah, you've got your overarching vision, and then you got to figure out who are the key players and how do you plug that all together.
Yeah.
But I think that brings us to another good point. So for me, and I feel like you are in the same mindset of this, it's like, it's not about just our company. It's about all the key players. I want to create like an ecosystem of people that help plug in all of those key beneficial pieces. Like I have a full network of realtors, right? I'm starting to branch out and get people for mortgage side. So I can connect a realtor to you. I can connect a realtor to another realtor so they can have a buyer and seller for a home. I'm connecting with local industry experts that, we can outsource some of our stuff as we get bigger projects. And so I think that is super beneficial for business leaders. Look beyond your own kind of scope within an ecosystem and create something that is valuable. I've got stager contacts. I've got everybody. I met a guy the other night that does remodel stuff. And so I text his card to a bunch of realtors because they always need stuff done. It's like all of a sudden we're this powerhouse of influence and everybody's got the same mentality, so I can know that you'll be taken care of if you go to this guy, that guy, this lady, whoever.
Yeah. So growing up, I was always, my granddad always called me Hollywood. Because I'm always, too much, pretty much. And it's just because I want to stand out because you got three brothers and whatnot. So I guess how that is reciprocal, and I don't want to be Hollywood or glitz or glamour or all that stuff. I care, right? But agents and media, and if you're a builder, if you're remodeling, the more you get engaged with your community and communities, the better you'll be. The more people you connect with that are like-minded in any variant of your industry. So I have recently really poured a lot into our local home builders association. And the first thing that I did was I donated high-end videos for the tour of homes last year. And I knew because I went and I looked at all of these builders and I saw that they were extremely lacking. It was disappointing. It was sad that they weren't showing off these properties, multi-million-dollar properties, multi-million-dollar companies that don't have video, barely photography on their properties. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be a good thing. I don't care if I have to pay for it. It's worth it. So 16 properties of the top builders in town. We shot all of them. And then I was like, okay, I made a lot of good connections. I now am invested in the Home Builders Association. It was cool. They did some trade work. They gave me an ad in the Tour of Homes magazine. And so it was awesome. Paid off. It was great. And then we went up to the Street of Dreams and did the same exact thing. Create a lot of connections, free, fine. Yeah. Now, so those, you have to realize that there's a web with everything. It's not just mortgage. It's electrical, it's builders, it's escrow, it's real estate company, it's property managers, it's concrete framers, drywall. It just keeps going and going and
Insurance.
going.
There's
And
yeah,
there is so many people that I'm in business with technically that benefits my business,
yeah,
and that they can all benefit from what I think cross collaboration is the newest and best trend, because you're putting that partnership on display together, and your content can only go so far, but our content can go a lot further, because I get access to your sphere, the people who know, love, and trust you, and you get access to mine. And having that partnership is a great communion between us, right? And marriage between us and builders and us and agents. And that's a beautiful thing. And how can we do that better?
for sure.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
So, people are probably like, this is the mortgage guy talking about media a lot. So tell us about Catalyst and your kind of vision there, because that's a really important piece of the
Yeah.
puzzle too.
Yeah. So I created Catalyst Marketing Company basically off other people's talent. I can't sell everyone a home loan. I can't. It's just simple facts. I truly can't. But I am really engaged in my community, and I'm really good at promotion, and I'm really good at connecting people. And the easiest way to do that is through influence and social media, and through a camera and highlighting people. And I have some really cool guys in Salem and Kaiser, that area, that I had connections with. So I was like, and I had some, someone charged me a lot of money on a video project that I was donating to a nonprofit. And I was like, you know what? I can do this better, and I can help people better. And essentially, it's just providing value. This is only going to provide value for my business, because it's going to help me connect with my business more and the people that I want to connect with. It's
Right.
going to help me broaden my sphere, um, and help people tell their story better. And as soon as I really just realized, oh my gosh, I have so many connections, so many businesses that need this. Like, I'm almost like paralyzed by the fact of, who do I reach out to next? Who can we help? And it can be through anything. It can be through, we can coach them on how to do it better on your phone, or we can do reels, or we can do high-end commercials. We can do drone work. I mean, just like you guys, right? And you guys are the exact reflection of what we are, but in this market. That's why I appreciate you guys so much, because there's going to be so much collaboration that comes together. And Catalyst has really turned into mostly 365 and Mosaic. Like, Catalyst is about the creatives and the guys that are actually doing the work. I'm not behind the camera. I'm helping
Right.
you get connected to it. And yeah, can I help with some business consulting, media consulting, and help you come up with the strategy and a marketing campaign, and how can you monetize this? How can you turn this into a landing page that then people can subscribe and or host this on? I mean, it's so deep,
Right.
and I could go on forever. But our stories are inspiring. If it's inspiring to one person in 100, then we did a good job.
Yep. Yeah. And I like that too, because, people might not think for us that, they're like, oh, they're the media guys. No, actually, I'm your trusted partner that has cohesive partners that see the same brand and see the same vision through what we do and how we provide our value. And for me, I want to be the go-to source for whatever you need in this industry.
Yeah.
And so I can, recommend you for mortgage. They're like, wow, nobody's ever done that before. Good. Get used to it. You've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah.
Because this is how passionate I am about everything involved for the process. Because at the end of the day, I want the person at the very end who's buying the home, selling the home, to be part of why we do this, right? And I can do that through my network and what I envision for this. This is bigger and better than anything you've ever seen. There's so much green space in this area. And I want to be the guy that you didn't expect to give you the value you've never seen before, right? And I can see that same thing with you. And that's why I'm like, this guy's awesome. I'm going to call him and just chat him up about, what are you working on today? How can I help you? And how can we kick some ass this week? And
let's just say this: if I hated mortgage, I would have already joined. Like, I would be in this with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So because I believe so much in this,
Yeah.
and what it means for people and businesses. And that was like the soundbite that I think you're going to use for forever, because that got me on fire, man. So,
I mean, I give a shit so much that I was on a photo shoot 2 weeks ago, and the realtor was there, and she's on the phone trying to make all these calls, and I kind of overheard it. And she's like, "I really need someone to get the roof cleaned off." I go, "You know what? I'll come back tomorrow with my pressure washer and all my stuff, and I'll do that for you, because I care, And she's like, "Wow, that's, you don't have to." I go, "No, I'm happy to. I love doing outside work and stuff, and I'll get up on the roof and clean all the moss off so you have a better presentation when you go to show this house next week." I mean, I didn't do that to flaunt anything. I did that to take care of someone, and the seller was like, "This is above and beyond."
How many times have I, in the same sense, how many times have I helped people move?
Yeah.
It's like,
totally.
dude,
I'm like the strangest person in that regard. Yeah.
You don't have a flatbed or a truck.
Yeah.
And you don't have an extra $3,000. Let me get my brothers and help you, or friends, or whatever, real estate partners.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. Just because I'm willing and able. And plus it's good exercise too. But
yeah.
I've moved a million times.
I know I don't say this to people, but in my head, when people, say that to me, they go, "Wow, that was incredible." In my head, I'm thinking, yeah, we'll get used to it, because this is what we're doing now.
And what does that do for you in your business? They tell everyone about it.
Yeah. And here's a little thing for people, a good reminder. If you have a bad experience somewhere, you tell everybody you know. If you have a good experience, you might tell 10 people, right? Yeah. And so that's weird how our society works, but that tells me so much about what I'm doing is impactful, and I want to be the guy that you actually tell 20 people about how great it was, right? Like, This is your guy. You might not be thinking about buying a house or selling a house or whatever, and I don't even sell homes or buy homes, by the way, but I will be the guy to promote it. My buddy was over here last night. He's taking all this.
You do, and someday you will. You'll buy another. This is a studio in your house, bro.
Yeah.
This is absolutely sensational, and you should see the details. This guy's house is like a Pinterest reel, man. This is a beautiful home, and your attention to detail is different, and that bleeds into your work.
Yeah.
And it shows, and you have so much to be proud of, and I couldn't recommend anyone higher than what Mosaic does, and their attention to detail and their way of putting you on display. You can't imitate what he gives, and his passion and his desire and his ultimate care for you and your business and how he can help you grow. That matters so much, and that bleeds into everything that he does, and it matters, and it shows, and I love that I'm even here. It's just you feel like a brother already, man. So thank you.
I get fired up about it, man. My buddy was over here last night for dinner. He's getting into real estate. He's taking his courses right now. Good. And I go, "Man, I'm gonna make you look amazing." I'm just getting super excited about it. I go, "I'm gonna put you out there as like a coming soon," like they do properties, but coming soon, the go-to source for real estate. New
agents.
Yeah.
If you want to blow up, if you want to do good, you have a huge sphere that you went to high school with, college with, everything. Don't just go to open houses. Show them off. Literally use media to your advantage to create something. This is you. Tell your story, whether it's through your phone, whatever. Do it to a higher standard, though.
Yeah.
And utilize media and marketing to your advantage. Take advantage.
And be yourself. Don't be a cookie cutter, because
and don't be
you're unique, and we can showcase that in a new and meaningful way.
Yes.
I actually think this is an interesting thing, because technology is always evolving and media is always evolving, and there's new ways to do it. So there's that happening at the same time, where I think that, along with a product of COVID, is that people reevaluated their lives, and it's actually changed the way that our media looks these days, because people want to show who they are, because they actually probably have more self-care. They had to reevaluate everything they were doing.
It's way more personal.
Yeah. And so I'm really enjoying being a part of that and showcasing more lifestyle stuff. Like, you can just be yourself. You don't have to like hide behind a home. You can just be yourself.
And
guess what?
Cookie cutters.
Yeah. And guess what? There's also, you're the guide for this really cool house, and we can do that too. But at the end of the day, be a person, be who you are, and don't be afraid of that. And we're here to help you highlight that and manifest that into something that's freaking magic.
And if you go to the wrong place, you're not going to be happy with the product.
100%.
Understand that your brand matters and your cohesive brand in total matters. And creating a cohesive, streamlined, beautiful brand that matches what your standard of work is matters.
Yep.
And that's why I poured so much into me. I saw how it was starting to affect my business. People were reaching out to me. I was more connected than I ever was when I was honest and vulnerable and just posting daily useful content.
Yeah.
And it's only getting better, and it will only get better, especially as we collaborate together and others, and my partners can collaborate with me with you guys too. So that's the strategy.
And like,
I'm just as much as a marketing and media company as I am a mortgage company.
Right.
You know? That's because it's a business.
Yep.
Every business needs
and this is your life. You're spending all this time, effort, and money on things that impact you at the end of the day. And so don't settle for bullshit. Be bigger and better than you ever could be by understanding what you want and showcasing who you are.
No, fire, man. That's great.
All right. So, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
I don't think so. I think I'm glad that I got that little chance to highlight you and talk about your impact on me already. And I'm excited, I'm sure that you guys know all of Mosaic's talent, but there's some such talented guys that are behind Mosaic that you guys will be seeing and, getting to know. And I'm excited to be a part of their journey. But they are amazing. I mean, literally the guys that do all this editing and bring this all together is the reason why we're able to sit here and show you a really sweet product, and I can't say enough that it's not about us. It's really about how talented they are, and we're glorifying their incredible gifts
for sure
and talent and abilities. And I just was watching, they just did a really cool shoot at like a brewery yesterday or whatever it was. And I mean, these are commercial grade, and they're going to send a couple reels over to this restaurant or brewery or pub. And it's insane. The color grading, the details, the sound, the audio, all of those things matter. And they give that product every time.
Yeah. And I saw the talent from day one. It's like, people always say, hire someone that's better than you. And that's great in concept. But when you do it, it's like, at first you're like, damn, I want to make some videos too. But
man, it's like Latin.
I love supporting my team. I love being, I'm kind of the mouthpiece and the face of it, but they are the talent, and I love being a part of it. So thank you so much for being on the podcast. Where can people find you?
Instagram. I'll give all of my, on this.
Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
We'll give a QR code, websites, Facebook. Just look me up wherever. Connect with me. LinkedIn, Twitter. I got them all. But whether it be social media, we'll even drop my phone number and email and everything. So anytime, feel free to reach out to me if you guys want to collaborate. And especially with these guys, if you guys have hopes and dreams and, maybe some media strategies, hit us up. We're more than happy to help come up with some cool concepts for you.
For sure. And we'll probably put some events together soon. So keep an eye out for that. And thank you for listening. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.